Hello everyone, this is the finale of What If Naruto Was Banished and Trained by Kenshiro, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
The past week had been a good one for Naruto, of that there was not even a shred of doubt. He had returned home to his loving wife Tsunami, who greeted him at the door with a kiss as well as a tackle since she was in such a horny mood and wanted him then and there. Naruto was just glad that Inari lived at his grandfather's house, or he would have been mentally scarred by all this happening constantly. But after several hours of sex, including several more when he took Temari as well as Tsunami to Spring Country, Naruto took off again to meditate and exercise for the upcoming fight. It was like this for the entire week, with him visiting one of the three women in his life and then exercising afterwards, since a body like his had to be maintained if he wanted to keep the muscles he had. What made it even better was he took all three at the same time on the day before he went back to Konoha, and by the time he was done with them they weren't able to move as he left for the airship that would take him to his destination. But a week had come and gone, and as Naruto indulged in the pleasures of the flesh in spring, in Fire Country Konoha buckled down and planned on how to beat him. They made up so many plans to force him into submission, which even though they wanted him dead they knew that they could just do that later when the war was over with and the security of their village was once again assured. They called back all the high-ranked Jonin and Anbu they had scouting in the country to fight while replacing them with lower-ranked individuals. Extensive complex seals were placed in the arena, which was where they were going to fight, ones that would easily incapacitate the brat quickly so as to defeat him without casualties of any sort on their end, since they needed all the shinobi they could get to fight off the combined forces of Iwa and Kumo soon. They had to use some of Tsunad's blood to form the specific seals they needed to make this fight go in their favor, since she was an Uzumaki on her grandmother's side. While the seals that were set up were meant to only affect Naruto when activated, Tsunade was also an Uzumaki, so she would be as well. But in the end she was okay with this because of the fact that it would make it all the worthwhile when the brat was forced into submission. Even the Fire Daimyo himself came to see the spectacle, which would be Naruto's submission, and he looked forward to seeing the brat groveling at his feet in a weakened state. He had allowed the citizens of his shinobi village to abuse him in the hopes that at some point in the future he could appear to him when he was far more humbled and submissive, so that he could get the boy to sign away his family's fortune to him. But the brat had taken everything with him when he was banished, and his shinobi could not find him no matter how hard they looked for him, and once the brat was beaten into submission he would get his hands on his money one way or another. And now a week had passed, and Naruto was within viewing range of the village. He walked towards the gate cool and collected, since things were going as planned so far. He was even whistling a tune as he walked towards the front gate. As he walked to the guards he stopped as he saw them glare at him. He stood there and laughed, since he recognized one of them as the one he had knocked out when he had come back the first time. The guards let him pass since he was expected, and Naruto took about 10 steps into the village before he was surrounded on all sides by shinobi. "Man," said Naruto as he held his head and laughed, "to think that all it took for me to receive this type of treatment was to leave for several years. If I had known that when I was younger, I would have left sooner than when I was banished by you people in my teen years." "So you came like you said," said Tsunade as she and Jiraiya made their way to the front of the crowd. "Yeah," said Naruto with a smirk and a shrug of his shoulders, "because unlike some elderly assholes I know, I actually keep my word." "And what exactly do you mean by that, brat?" growled Jiraiya, who was pissed at the insult. "It's not really that important. But what is important is that we have a bet to settle, and I would like to settle it sooner than later so I can return home and fuck my wife." "Well, if you are that impatient to lose," started Tsunade with a haughty look on her face, "then let us head to the stadium to start this." "No," said Naruto simply as he remained in place with his hands in his pocket. As he said that, it caused everyone to stop mid-step, since they didn't expect him to say that out of the blue, or at all for that matter. "Excuse me," said Tsunade with a bit of anger lingering in her voice, since she was not someone who liked to be challenged, and least of all by the brat that she would love to beat in the face if and when she was given the chance to do so. "Wow," said Naruto with a grin as he looked her directly in the eye, "it seems like you are older than people think if you have a hearing problem, because I said no, you old hag. You agreed to fight us in a bet, and now you are welching on the bet. No, I am not. I agreed to fight you to determine my future, but in our discussion of terms there was no mention as to where we would fight. So I wish to fight in the place of my own choosing. Yet the stadium is the logical choice, said Jiraiya, who was not about to let all his hard work in making the seals he placed within it go to waste by the brat simply not going there. Plus there is seating for many who have paid good money for tickets to see the event. Oh, I'm sure it's the ideal place to fight, since I fought in it once already and it would work. I also know that you are correct about the seats and the people, since they would love to see what they assume will be my downfall. But you are just going to have to refund their money, since I'm not stupid enough to take so much as one step within a stadium that has been set with seals to weaken me before I even started fighting. How did you know? Asked Jiraiya, as not only him but everyone else looked at Naruto in shock that he knew about it. To be honest, said Naruto with a smile, it was an educated guess. But with you just admitting it like that, well then it seems like you underestimated my intelligence like you all have for years. And how do you figure that? Man, where do I even begin with that? Let's start at the beginning then. I always knew that my friends were not that, and so when they turned on me the day I was banished, it didn't affect me in the slightest, since I knew the day would come when it did. Then there was me knowing about my parents since I was 6 fucking years old. I took one look at a picture of Minato and then looked in a mirror, it was that simple. And yet no one else has made this connection. I took what was mine by inheritance out of the village the first time I left it on a mission to keep it safe, and yet none of you knew this. To think that I outwitted even the Nara clan, which you all claim are the smartest people here. If you are so smart, said Koharu, as she had just about enough of this brat. She had wanted him to be a mindless weapon since the day he was born, along with Homura and Danzo, but Hiruzen had been against it. And now their plans to make him submit quickly were out the door, since the brat knew their plans to use seals to contain him, so if he wouldn't willingly go to the arena then they would subdue him here and be done with it. Hell, they were never going to honor the deal even if he won, since Danzo had multiple root shinobi in the shadows waiting on the off chance the brat won, who would be exhausted from the fight and easily subdued afterwards. Then why would you willingly walk into our trap like this? You think I didn't cover all my bases, said Naruto as he looked at her old wrinkled face. The look in his eyes told her that she was beneath him, and she hated that look in his eyes and made plans to make him suffer for even looking at her like that. Then you need to retire your old senile ass, since I did. Do you see that floating object up there? With that, Naruto pointed upwards, to which when the people looked where he was pointing there was a small airship which bore the symbol for Spring Country on it. That, you worthless sack of flesh, is an airship. On it are several people under the orders of Kyuki herself to monitor this fight we are about to have. If I lose then they will leave, since the agreement was that I would help you, and while I may hate you all with every fiber of my being, I am still a man of my word. If I win then I will leave, with any and all attempts to stop me being reported to Spring, who at this very moment are waiting for an order to deliver the tech such as airships and chakra armor to your enemies in this war if the order is given. So if any of you have the plan to, I don't know, try and force me into submission when this is all over, well, throughout my life you all tried to break me and failed when I was simply a child. I am now a grown-ass man who is stronger than you would have ever let me become, so you do the mental math there. So if you don't want to fight in the arena, said Danzo, who was absolutely livid that the brat had thought this far ahead to counter all they could and probably still would do if push came to shove in the end. Then where exactly do you want to fight? Simple, said Naruto as he pointed towards the Hokage monument, there. There is a fairly large training area near there and the view is good, so it would be perfect for this epic fight we will soon have. To be honest, it was the only place in my entire time here that I was ever able to feel at peace, which was a miracle in itself, seeing that I was abused so damn much. Very well then, said Tsunade, who was pissed as was everyone else that their plans had been foiled by the demon and would actually put in the effort to put him down. She signaled for one of her shinobi to relay this information to the people who had gathered in the stadium early, since they wanted to get good seats to see Naruto get his ass handed to him, but they were now all pissed that they had wasted their time as well as money, since the demon had changed the location of the fight. There was chaos as the people rushed out of the stadium in an attempt to get a spot near the new battleground watch the fight. The Fire Daimyo was furious as he heard about this, since he had been assured that the brat would be brought to heel easily without loss of his forces, since they needed all they could spare if they had any chance at surviving the war they were in. It took about 30 minutes, but the area was soon packed with as many people were able to visibly see the fight. The shinobi who were not participating in it head out towards the village, since in their minds they had already won this fight and there was no need to see it to know this. The fire daimyo had the best spot, with Danzo and his lackeys next to him. So the fire daimyo himself saw fit to get his fat lazy ass of his golden throne to witness this match personally, said Naruto with a sneer on his face. I don't know whether to be honored or disgusted by this. You watch your mouth, boy, said the fire daimyo in anger. He would not be talked down to by a commoner such as Naruto. You are addressing royalty. And that means what exactly? Asked Naruto with a raised eyebrow. You are the leader of a country that has pissed off most of the others into a war that you cannot possibly win. Once this village is destroyed, then the invading forces will continue on and kill your pathetically weak ass, no problem. I am the only chance that this village has to survive what is to come, and yet you try to throw out the royalty card to force me to respect you in some manner. Well, guess what, asshole? I'm married to Kiyuki, the spring daimyo herself, and since that is the case, we are on equal footing of the hierarchy scale, you and me. But the key difference between us is that my country is not in danger of being overrun by opposing forces like yours is. You married Kiyuki? Asked Tsunade in shock to hear that Naruto married someone so influential. That I did, said Naruto, who mentally smirked since that was not true, yet at least he planned to in the future, but now was not the time to tie the knot. But these idiots didn't know that, nor would they. Since unlike you I can actually find someone. Oh, you will pay for that, you brat, said Tsunade, who was absolutely livid to hear him say that. Well, I would like to see your old ass try, said Naruto as he got into position to begin the fight. There were 500 shinobi ranging from the strongest of Chunin to Anbu rank. In the back were all the senseis along with the clan heads and their heirs who were holding back to plan accordingly if Naruto somehow managed to defeat so many people to even get to them in the first place. Naruto smirked as he cracked his knuckles. You will show me respect by the end of this, said the fire daimyo with a regal voice with all the authority he could muster. Oh, I'm sorry, said Naruto sarcastically as he rolled his eyes at the man, but I find it impossible to respect a man who allowed so many people to abuse an innocent child in one of the most fucked up plans to steal the money left to them by their family. How do you know about that? Asked the fire daimyo in shock that the one person he didn't want to know about that plan knew about it. Because when I was 8 years old I saw you meet with Hiruzen, said Naruto with a cocky smirk. So what if you did? Asked the fire daimyo, who was not really seeing the full picture here. I met with the man on multiple occasions. This is true, but after I began to see through all the bullshit that this village tried to shove down my throat to hinder me, as well as knowing that Hiruzen was not the kind old man he pretended to be, I started looking into things, and that meeting you had with him revealed all the info I needed. I hid in the air duct, as I had before on multiple occasions, and I heard you speak about your plans to take what was mine, my right of inheritance. And it was because of that that I made, as well as succeeded, my plans to take my money out of the bank so you couldn't get your greedy hands on it no matter what. But how did you even get it, brat? Asked Tsunade, who was irate to hear all of this. The bank had explicit orders to kick you out and to not serve you in any form. This is true, said Naruto, but I simply used a skill that my mother knew and used it perfectly. And what skill is that? Shadow clones. While I distracted the staff, my clone snuck in through the side and opened the vault to my money. Since the seal was made by my parents and I am of their blood, I was easily able to open it so the alarm would not sound off. But you learned that when you were 13 and stole the forbidden scroll. If you really believed that, then you were dumber than I thought, laughed Naruto as he heard this. It had always amazed him to see that no one ever put the pieces together and realized he had played them. That technique was forbidden for the reason of it being fairly advanced, and using it improperly would mean the death of the user if done incorrectly. Now think about this for a minute. My teachers have sabotaged my education for as long as I can remember, and like the actor I was, I played along and showed you all the dead last you wanted me to be so as to control me. Now if I was truly that bad as you wanted, how in hell would I be able to master a jutsu that could literally kill you within minutes of looking at it? So you knew how to use that jutsu all along, growled Jiraiya, who hated to hear that the plans he and his sensei had made to make the brat into a loyal weapon had failed far earlier than they had expected. How? The Kyuubi, of course, said Naruto with a shrug of his shoulders. He was the only true friend I had who shared the truth of my family to me. He knew what my mother knew and showed me how to train in her techniques. And you listened to the demon. It wasn't a hard choice. The QB offered knowledge and truth, while the village offered me nothing at all but pain and tried to take everything, including my loyalty from me. But wait, said the fire daimyo as something had been bugging him for a bit, most of the money for your family was in the bank in the fire capital. How the hell did you get it when you never were sent on a mission there? And you no doubt made sure that I never would go there, said Naruto, but once I entered my rightful home, I found paperwork showing where my money was and took action. Seeing as the bank in the capital has far more security than the one here, I had to plan accordingly. First I took the money I extracted here to pay the minimum amount to gain a vault since they are fairly pricey. I hanged a shadow clone into a fake persona along with false credentials I had. When I made the account I put the money in the vault no problem. Then I just waited a week to return in disguise to extract both vaults of their money. The vaults are not monitored since the seals on them would sound an alarm if tampered in any way, so once again my blood did the trick. You stole money that wasn't yours to have, growled Tsunade. Actually I didn't since it was mine by right, said Naruto as he looked at her, but I knew you wanted it for yourself. At first I thought it was because you were a greedy hag, but in my time away I heard so many rumors. You are flat broke, since you have gambled the entire fortune of the Senju away like an idiot. To make matters worse, you still owe money to so many debt collectors, and it is because of that you want this money. And then I hear how you have been getting constant extensions on payments by using Shizune to whore herself out to them, since you are so fucking high and mighty to not do it yourself. You dishonor both sides of the family with your greedy nature, and while I pity her for what you put her through, it will not stay my hand in the slightest when I kill her. You will pay for this brat, said Tsunade, who at this point was seething that her dirty little secret of whoring out Shizune was known to all. Those collectors had wanted her to sleep with them for an extension, but she was Tsunade's Senju, not a whore. So she offered up Shizune, who was against it, but a special concoction Tsunade made to inhibit her sexual urges fixed that right quick. I highly doubt that I will. But all in all I am glad to see you took my advice that I gave you the last time I was here seriously and gathered so many people to fight me, said Naruto. This will make it far easier to beat Minato's record for shinobi killed by one man in the Third Shinobi War. This match is to the knockout, said the fire daimyo, not to the death. And yet without my help your village is doomed to die anyway. So I say it is to the death since without me they are dead anyway. And I hope they come at me with the intent to kill me as well. Since they have done so since I was but a child, so why change their ways now? Now I want you all to pay close attention to this, said Naruto as he used his thumbs to jab specific pressure points in his legs. As he did he felt the power surge through them at a tremendous rate and he would unleash it all at once in a moment. He was in front of them for a brief millisecond before his afterimage faded. He then appeared behind the main group of shinobi, who then all convulsed and exploded from his supersonic Hakato strikes. Because you are all already dead. Those who saw this stepped back quite a bit to see the demon brat kill so many men in less than 5 seconds. It just wasn't possible in their minds even though they just saw it with their own eyes. And just like that his record is decimated, said Naruto with a grin. But the kicker to that move is that I can only use it once within a 24-hour period or I risk losing my legs. So the rest of you I have to take my time to kill. The initial shock of the massive death scene that played out before them finally subsided, and when it did they came at Naruto hard. The first person to strike out against him was surprisingly Hinata herself. Naruto remembered the slap he was given by her and smiled as he easily dodged the attacks she threw at him in an attempt to shut his chakra system down. It wasn't just her though since he also had to dodge Neji as well as Hiashi as well, which made it trickier but still doable. Naruto then performed a sweep kick that only Hinata was able to dodge in time, and as she landed back on her feet after jumping over it Naruto jabbed his finger under her chin. This caused her body to go stiff, and then he slapped her hard across the face to the point her head faced one direction. Then he slapped her once more so her head now faced the other. Phantom channeling point. This is for slapping me years ago, said Naruto coldly. Why? Said Hinata as her head began to expand painfully, why can't I move? Her head then exploded and her body fell over dead. As Naruto stood there and prepared for the next person to attack him, he felt a sharp pain in his arm. When he looked down to see why that was, his eyes widened to see his entire arm was missing as the Kamui dissipated. Naruto held his stump for an arm and screamed out in pain as he used his hand to stem off the flow of blood escaping from his wound. Well, it looks like we win, said Tsunade as she as well as the others surrounding him began to laugh at his pain. They had always found it humorous to see him suffer and this was no different to them. You think this is funny, growled out Naruto. When he said it the laughter only got louder. You all think this is fucking funny. Naruto glared as he saw so many people close to tears from laughing so hard, but then his glare turned into a smile as he chuckled for a bit. It is not as funny as the look on all of your faces. When he said that, everyone around him stopped laughing since they wondered what the hell he was going on about. But in the end their looks of confusion turned to ones of shock as they saw Naruto poke a few places near the flesh wound and out of the stump the rest of his arm returned back to what it was before it had been taken by Kakashi's move. How did you? Started Tsunade, who at this point was completely speechless as she saw Naruto rapidly regrow a lost limb like that. A combination of my Uzumaki regenerative genetics supercharged by the single fact that I am a Jinchuriki, and also my fighting style helped to hasten my recovery quite nicely. So in the end while Kakashi's plan was a solid one, it was useless to try. But if it is any sort of consolation that hurt like hell. Naruto then moved fast than they expected him to and appeared before Kakashi himself. The man was on one knee since using the Kamui took so much out of him to use and he was taking a breather. But it seemed like he was not going to get that much needed breather though since Naruto was here to finish him off personally. Naruto raised his hand in an open palm and slammed it down hard onto Kakashi's head with a chop. Stone Mountain splitting slash. Kakashi felt massive amounts of pain as he felt his brain split in two, and as it did his body fell over since he was basically brain dead at this point. Naruto ducked from a punch that was sent his way by Tsunade from behind. He grabbed her by the arm and pulled her into position before he slammed his fist into her gut. Her eyes opened wide in pain as she felt her body go numb and she was sent flying backwards. The blow Naruto had hit her with was a fairly powerful paralyzing blow meant to keep her out of the fight until he was ready to deal with her properly. At this point both Neji as well as Hiashi appeared next to him and tried to attack him in sync with their clan's signature fighting style. But Naruto simply ducked under their strikes and got into a better position. While to others looking at their strikes it seemed normal, but to Naruto their strikes moved in slow motion so it was easy to dodge them. When Hiashi attempted to strike him once more, Naruto simply moved his head to the side and used his fingers to poke several pressure points on his arms. Hakato Bone Demolisher. Hiashi screamed in pain as his arm bulged at first, but then out of nowhere the top of his head exploded. Neji attempted to strike him so as to revenge Hiashi in some way, but Naruto knocked him off his feet with a quick sweep kick and threw him into the air. Once he fell, Naruto proceeded to pummel his back in multiple points, shattering Neji's spine as he did. For a brief moment of time, Neji fully understood the pain that Lee had gone through when his spine had been damaged after fighting Gaara. And with one more yell of power, Naruto landed the final blow that caused Neji to explode in midair. Hakato Wingbreaker. It was at this point that Naruto felt his body stiffen unexpectedly. When he looked to see why, he noticed his shadow had been caught in both Shikamaru as well as his father's shadow possession. His enemies capitalized on his immobility since Lee and Guy activated multiple gates and rushed him. Naruto felt every blow they hit him with, and after a minute of non-stop pummeling from the dynamic duo they finally stopped and saw Naruto cough out blood from his injuries. I am glad to see you take this seriously, said Naruto with a smirk as the power within him began to grow. It means that this fight will not get boring. Naruto's body then expanded quite a bit as his muscles bulged out and he began to glow with a blue aura of power. His jacket exploded as his power grew, and before Guy or Lee could react to this sudden event, Naruto was upon them and striking the both of them with blows all over that caused their bodies to explode as the end result. With his body powered up, Naruto made short work of all the others who dared to challenge him. They all died violent explosive deaths as he used an array of techniques that had been taught to him from his sensei. In the end all that was left was Jiraiya as well as Sasuke, both who had gone into their sage mode to fight him. He had saved them for last. Rasengan, exclaimed Jiraiya while the orb of energy he charged forward with connected with its intended target, who honestly let the attack hit him, and felt its power explode around him. As for Jiraiya, he smirked at the sight of his attack exploding, and no doubt killing the son of his first former student. Sure, they were meant to subdue the brat, but he had done so much damage at this point and they would need to eliminate him to make sure he could no longer hinder them. Is that it, Jiraiya? One measly half-assed jutsu and you think the battle is over? That you have won? Questioned Naruto while he chuckled as the dust around him cleared up so that Jiraiya could see that his attack had done nothing more than leave what appeared to be a slight sunburn on Naruto's chest where he had hit him. That hit you dead on. You should be dead, exclaimed Jiraiya while Naruto chuckled more. I should have died from a lot of things in my life, but I'm a stubborn man. Especially when the one who attacked me is some weak little perverted fool like you, countered Naruto coldly while slowly walking toward a shocked, worried, and angry Jiraiya. You Uzumaki filth never knew when it was in your best interest to lay down and die, exclaimed Jiraiya before he unleashed the swamp of the underworld on Naruto to trap him on the spot. The same can be said about you, Jiraiya, remarked Naruto before he pulsed his power to obliterate the swamp and slowly walked out of the crater made in the process. Why won't you just die already? Asked Jiraiya angrily while throwing one jutsu after another at Naruto as he moved away from him so as to keep his distance, but did not hurt the former Jinchuriki one bit. Because I can't die at the hands of a foolish old man like you. Especially one who has no shame, and tries to influence a prophecy he shouldn't have tried to meddle with in the first place, said Naruto before he batted the water jutsu used by Jiraiya upwards. You tried to use me to further your own goals with the prophecy that the Elder Toad told you. And then you tried to kill me when it became apparent that I couldn't be controlled so as to avoid the prophecy altogether. Because in your mind if I wasn't going to aid Konoha then you were gonna make sure that I was not a threat. I did what I did to make the prophecy benefit Konoha in the end. Always Konoha since it is my home. If I have to manipulate a prophecy in a way so half the world is butchered and Konoha is standing over the endless pile of corpses, I will do it. Nothing but this village matters to me. If I gain the fame and recognition for my actions as an end result, I'll take it. But you didn't understand that. You never did. You chose to defy your purpose in life. Your purpose was to fight for Konoha. To die for Konoha. All the long years you wanted to live your life freely, it was spitting in the face of the village. You were fighting against everything you were and still a Naruto. You were a pawn, a tool, a weapon of war made to kill Konoha's enemies and those who challenges our strength. You may or may not have died like we wanted you to years ago, but your overall purpose in life has not changed. Not once. The only thing that has changed is you have the foolish and unfortunate belief that you should be fighting against the very village that raised you. I will not stand for it, exclaimed Jiraiya while Naruto cruelly chuckled at his words. And that Jiraiya is why you are forever an idiot, commented Naruto coldly since all he saw before him was a fool while Jiraiya seethed at the insult. Since I would never fight for a place that sees me as nothing more than a slave to their whims. I am an Uzumaki and we live free. At least I'm not dead like you, exclaimed Jiraiya before he charged forward in the hopes of catching Naruto off guard and shoving a Rasengan down his throat. His mind was not thinking rationally at this point since he clearly did not remember that it didn't work the first time. Only to underestimate Naruto's speed entirely. Naruto simply used both his thumbs and slammed them onto the sides of Jiraiya's head, causing his body to go limp, thus cancelling his Rasengan. You have 3 seconds left, said Naruto as he walked away towards Sasuke who was prepared to take Naruto on in a vain state of mind that he would defeat him since he was an Uchiha. Those 3 seconds seemed to last forever for Jiraiya as they slowly ticked down. He thought of everything in his life that he did as it flashed before his eyes, as well as his regrets as well. But the single regret he had that shadowed over all others. Not paying more attention to Naruto and falling for his rouse as being a simple-minded child. And with that thought his head exploded. So you managed to kill the rest of those weaklings and saved the best for last, said Sasuke as Naruto stood there with his arms crossed in front of his chest. And how do you consider them weaklings when you yourself are no better than them? Because I am an Uchiha. We are and will always be superior to all others. As he said that, Naruto could have sworn he heard Sakura screaming in agreement to his vain statement. But that didn't make sense since Naruto had killed her with a slash of Nanto through her throat since her voice was and had always been so goddamn annoying so he took it upon himself to silence her forever in the most ironic way. And yet you are the last one, said Naruto, and with your death they will be extinct. Sasuke heard him say this and grew pissed off beyond measure that he had the gall to say that to him to his face. Sasuke activated his Mangekyo Sharingan and used it to summon forth his Susanoo. It encased his body in energy and lifted him up as if he were floating in the air. With this power I am invincible. So you would think, said Naruto as he took a deep breath and got into the proper position to unleash the power he would need to use to defeat Sasuke. But in reality it just makes you a far bigger target to hit. After I kill you, said Sasuke in a furious voice, I am going to go and find your wife and make her into my little plaything. I will force her to bear my children against her will until her mind shatters and she screams out my name as you become forgotten. I will find your son and make him suffer untold pain until he begs for mercy, and when he does I will only increase the pain until he curses your name for being born your son. Are you quite done? Said Naruto calmly. Even though Sasuke said all those things, he was all talk and no real skill, so there was really no threat here. Because I'm bored. You're boring me. Sasuke then used his Susanu's massive fist to try and strike Naruto down, but Naruto simply moved his arms a bit, and when he did 7 orbs of light appeared before him. He placed his hands together as if he was charging an attack with his hands, and threw them towards the massive purple fist that was hulking towards him. The energy behind Naruto's attack not only stopped the Susanoo mere inches from hitting him, but it also caused the arm to shatter like it was glass as well. But it didn't stop there, since the rest of the Susanoo broke as well as Sasuke cried out in pain as he felt his body burn from whatever Naruto had done to his Susanoo. But his screams only intensified as his eyes exploded out of his sockets as well. Execution of celestial destruction. Sasuke was on the ground on one knee as he coughed out blood. His eyes were now bloody sockets that were devoid of anything other than the blood that flowed from them. Look at the so-called elite Uchiha now, said Naruto as he cracked his knuckles as he walked towards Sasuke. Sasuke painfully got to his feet and got into a half-assed fighting stance, not really looking intimidating in the slightest from his wounds as the blood dripped from his now vacant eye sockets. Even with your eyes fully unlocked like they were, you still lost to me with but one move alone, the so-called Dobe. The loser who you ridiculed for most of your life as you claimed time and time again that you were better than me. How does it feel to gain all that power you so desperately wanted to find out that it was still not enough to beat me in the end? Go to hell, said Sasuke with all the hatred his weakened body was able to muster. He threw a punch out towards Naruto's direction since he heard where he was coming from. Naruto easily grabbed his hand and used it to turn Sasuke around as he broke his arm and held it behind his back. You first, whispered Naruto into Sasuke's ear, but before you depart let me tell you one simple thing. Itachi is still alive and well. He felt Sasuke stiffen as he heard this, but before Sasuke could say anything else, Naruto punched him all over his body. This caused Sasuke to spasm uncontrollably as his body expanded. He screamed in pain as his body finally exploded, sending his blood and organs all over the place. As he saw Sasuke die, he remembered the last conversation that he had with Itachi. Flashback. Itachi opened his eyes after a full minute, surprised to see that he was still alive when he had expected to die by Naruto's hands. I'm still alive, he asked in shock since he had made peace with the fact he was going to die and now he wasn't. Of course you are, said Naruto as he held a vial that was full of Itachi's blood that he had taken from his cheek. He had struck him in a way that made his body go numb so that he didn't flinch so he could take just enough blood from him to do what he needed to do. I thought you were going to kill me. Why the hell would I kill the one person in all of Konoha who cared for my safety? Asked Naruto with a raised eyebrow. I thought you needed to kill me to send a message to my brother. Said Itachi as the illusionary world they had been in shattered and they were in the real world once more. I do, said Naruto as he pulled out 2 scrolls from the inside of his jacket. He unrolled one of them and placed the vial of blood upon it before he made a hand sign. When he made it, the vial of blood shattered and the blood within it transformed into the head of Itachi with his eyes half open with a pained look on his face. But I just needed enough blood to clone your head. But the head won't last for very long. I am familiar with these kinds of things to know they don't. While that is true, said Naruto as he unrolled the second scroll, which contained a box with seals carved into it. He placed the head within it and closed the lid up before he resealed it into the scroll. This secondary scroll will basically halt the timer the head has so that it won't decay until it is unsealed. But all of that is irrelevant since there are explosive seals that will destroy it before they ever take it to be tested in any way. I'm really going for the shock factor here more than anything else. So what now? Asked Itachi as he stretched a bit to get the soreness out of the muscles in his body since it had gotten stiff while he was in the illusionary world. Well, that should be obvious, said Naruto as he pat Itachi on the shoulder with a grin on his face. While I'm flattered, said Itachi with a smile of his own, I'm sorry to say that I don't swing that way. Wait, said Naruto with a look of confusion on his face since his response had come out of left field and he was not expecting that. What the hell do you mean by that? Hey, said Itachi as he held up his hand in mock defense, it's okay if you are gay. I'm just not interested. Why the hell do you think I'm gay? Said Naruto with a raised eyebrow. Just a hunch is all. You do know I am married, right? Yeah, said Itachi with a smirk, and what is the name of the lucky man? Her name is Tsunami, you smartass. She is a woman. You do know what a beard is, right? You fully understand I can still kill you, right? Yes, I am fully aware of that fact, said Itachi with a bit of a chuckle. It felt good to express himself for once in his life. He had learned to suppress his emotions to become a far more efficient shinobi, but with Naruto it was more of a meeting of family members, so there was no need for such a thing since they were not trying to kill one another. But all kidding aside, said Naruto as he held out a key that had been left to him by his master so that he could return one day and replace the scrolls he took from the vault in the first place, take this key and head to Whirlpool. Why should I head there of all places? Because to the rest of the world you will be declared dead, and with this key you can gain access to the Uzumaki vault with all the knowledge that is inside of it. And you are just going to trust me with such knowledge. My mother would have trained you herself, so I believe this is long overdue really. Plus there is the simple fact that while I wish I could, there are jutsus I can't use since I do not have the affinity to do anything more than a basic jutsu in that element. You on the other hand should be able to use them so that the knowledge does not go to waste. Well, I thank you, said Itachi with a genuine smile as he took the key from Naruto's hand, and I wish you luck on your journey. Itachi then burst into a flock of crows and disappeared from the cave. Naruto smiled as he set out to accomplish what he needed to do next. End flashback. Naruto laughed as Sasuke died since this was the last person they had to throw at him other than Tsunade, but she was paralyzed and on the ground from earlier and hadn't moved a bit from her place. Naruto walked over towards her with a smirk on his face as he did. And as you can plainly see, said Naruto as he stopped a few yards short of Tsunade herself. I have won this little bet between us and I as such am free to go as per our agreement. But this is no surprise to me given your track record when it comes to gambling. But this time it will cost you far more than money, and unlike those other times you can't simply run away from the debt collector that is me. I fucking hate you, said Tsunade as she glared at him. I figured that out the moment we met, said Naruto as he formed a hand sign. When he did, multiple pillars formed from the ground at an angle that forced her up onto her knees while holding her head in place in a manner that she couldn't move it an inch. Since I was far more intelligent than you and anyone else ever thought I was. But then again, why would you think differently when your old sensei was here, making my life a living hell to force me into submission? To make me a weapon to use whenever you or anyone else demanded that I kill without as much as a thought for myself. Yet I stand here above your beaten bloody body, stronger than you ever thought I would become, as well as victorious in this fight when you thought I would lose. But now this is all over, and the boy you hated for so many years has finally grown into a man, and as such I am going to do what I have wanted to do to you the moment I read about you in my mother's journal when I was but a child. And to think that you once called her family. Naruto then curved the fingers in his hands and used them to swipe at her neck. It took a few seconds after he did that for the head to roll off her now severed neck. Naruto picked her head up and looked at it. While he could have killed her using Hakato, she was not worthy of dying from such a style, so he opted to use the Nanto style he knew as a personal insult towards her. He threw the severed head into the hands of the still shocked hands of the fire daimyo. He was surprised to see the demon brat prevail where he was supposed to fail. A souvenir to remember this moment, said Naruto as he pulled out a scroll which he pulled his spare jacket from and put it on. To remember the time that all your plans to control and rob me all failed. And since I won this bet I am going to leave. So have fun in your little war. Not so fast, said Danzo arrogantly as he blocked the path with a few of his root shinobi to enforce his will, you are not going anywhere. You may have won the bet you made with Tsunade, but you will now be forced into submission and made into a weapon to use against our enemies in the coming war. Danzo, said Naruto as he shook his head in disapproval, why am I not surprised that you would try this route when all else failed? I always pegged you as a sore loser and it seems like I was right. Hold your tongue, boy, growled Danzo as he heard this. He mentally made a note to make the boy suffer even more than he planned to begin with for his insolence. I am no boy, said Naruto as he held his hands out, and all these dead bodies literally prove it. But back to the whole stopping me thing, did you forget about the airship monitoring this whole event? It matters not, said Danzo as he snapped his finger. When he did, Naruto was then surrounded by a dozen root shinobi. By the time they deliver the news, you will be the obedient weapon you were always meant to be. Then we need not fear our enemies. Couple of things I want to say before anything else happens here, said Naruto with a grin. The first thing is that I knew all along that you would try this when your plan to defeat me failed. You thought that with all the fighting that I would be weak enough to capture. This was a solid plan, that I will admit, but one I made a plan to counter in the end. And that leads to the second thing I wanted to say. A roar was heard from behind the group of shocked spectators. They made way and began to run away in fear as they saw the Kyuubi appear and swiftly killed the root that surrounded Naruto. All that were left was Danzo, the fire daimyo, Homura, and Koharu. As you can plainly see, laughed Naruto as the Kyuubi stood by his side, the size of a large horse, his tail swishing behind him. I separated myself from the demon within me years ago. While you were busy focusing on me, my friend here paid a visit to that underground lair you have hidden away and dealt with those root shinobi you had stashed there. You now officially no longer have an army hidden in the shadows like you did. So you will have to face me like a real man, not like the coward that we both clearly know that you are. Well, this is quite unexpected, said Danzo in malice as he used his one good hand to uncover the hidden Sharingan that he had hidden under his bandages. He was furious to hear that his root had been decimated and made plans to bolster the ranks once more when this was all said and done. But it only made this part far easier for me. I think that you will have far more pressing matters than trying to control me or my friend here in the next minute or so. Naruto lifted his hand up in an open palm, and as he did, Danzo saw a seal light up on it in full view. Naruto smirked for a brief second before he formed his hand into a fist, and as he did, the seal broke. Once the seal broke and disappeared, there was a massive sound that echoed throughout the village as the walls that have protected the village from its founding crumbled all around them, leaving it defenseless. Shortly after this happened, there were yells as the combined forces of Kumo and Iwa charged forward and began their assault on the village. As Danzo and his group were distracted by this, Kyuubi pierced through Danzo's chest and burned him into ash from the inside out. The others were now far more shocked when they saw him die. It was out of fear that they stood still since they didn't know what else to do at this point. Shortly afterwards they were surrounded by a dozen shinobi from the attacking forces along with A, Onoki, and Killer B. Explosions and clear signs of attack were still happening all around the village, but that was secondary in their minds. As promised, said Naruto with a cocky smirk on his face, one heavily weakened village all ready for your forces to attack and pillage. Well, I'll be, said as he smirked at Naruto, when I heard from Onoki about this insane plan of yours, I was honestly believing that you were out of your mind. But when I saw the walls fall like they did, well, I have to hand it to you and say that you deliver upon your promises. Onoki smirked as he remembered the conversation that they had back when Naruto had first arrived at their village. Flashback. Naruto and Onoki were sitting in his office drinking sake and discussing their plans against Konoha. The bingo books with Naruto's updated stats had just been printed and were being sent out to Konoha as planned as they sat there and talked business. They had a map showing Fire Country spread out in front of them on the desk as they talked. So tell me, what exactly is your plan here, said Onoki, since he was curious what the son of their sworn enemy, who was said to be a tactical genius on par with the Nara clan that also resided in Konoha, could come up with. He was skeptical about one person such as Naruto doing enough damage to aid them in the coming war that they were going to have, but then he remembered that they thought the same thing during the Third Shinobi War and were utterly decimated by exactly one man with the ability to teleport all over the place via seal. Sure, his men now had access to the Rasengan thanks to Naruto, but no one had gotten to the third stage as of yet, so it was not a factor to put into any sort of planning like he had hoped it could at this point of time. It's quite simple, said Naruto as he took another sip of sake before he continued, I will go back to Konoha itself. Which seems foolish to do in the first place, since they will just try to detain you as soon as you enter the village. Using a shadow clone, please don't interrupt me. Oh, but before that I will get diplomatic status with the help of an old friend of mine who will be happy to know I am alive after all these years. Once gifted such status, I will do as I said and use a shadow clone to enter the village. There they will try to bargain with me to stay, and I just know that if all else fails they will dangle the opportunity of becoming the Hokage in my face since they think that I would do anything to achieve such a rank. Wouldn't you? No. Because it was never truly my dream to become the Hokage in the first place, nor could I become one even if I wanted to since there were laws in place that prevented not only me but all Jinchuriki from becoming one since we were meant to be weapons, not leaders. I knew that Hiruzen was manipulating me with that false goal, which was even more obvious when it becomes clear that to become a Kage you have to have the respect of the people and all I ever got from them was their hatred so there was no chance of me ever becoming one. I just let those idiots believe what they wanted and played along so that one day I could leave that place when the time was right. They forced my hand when they banished me, but it all worked out in the end so no problems there. You have planned a long time for this haven't you? Ever since I was 6 years old and I learned that the village had been lying to me my whole life and planned to do so until the end of it. But when they offer me the position that they all think I would do just about anything for I will still decline it. They will get pissed and Sunad will have no other choice but to make a bet with me since that is all she can do at that point to try and get me to stay. I'll make the terms which will have me fighting against their strongest shinobi, since with the info you posted in the bingo book they will take me seriously, which once they're dead will severely weaken the village. I'll also use QB to scout out the outposts and relay that information to you and Kumo so that you can eliminate them on your way here. Once you are close, simply wait for the signal, then strike at the village that will be too occupied with me to react in time to stop your assault. And what exactly is this signal that you are mentioning? Believe me when I say this, it will be fairly obvious when it happens since it will be the last thing you would expect to happen. End flashback. And like you said Onoki with a laugh as he remembered the last bit of that conversation, your signal was quite literally the last thing we expected. I never thought that I would see the day that the walls of Konoha would fall like that. The walls themselves were made with the help of the Uzumaki clan when this village was first founded, said Naruto, and as they did they placed plenty of seals on it as well to ensure it survived any form of attack. But when they did this they also placed well-hidden seals to counter all of those if ever came the case that Konoha betrayed them or became evil and corrupt like they have. Your fucking clan has been nothing more than a blight upon humanity, screeched out Koharu in rage, and they deserve to die when they did like the freaks they were. To hear that they planned to betray us like that only proved we were in the right to betray them when we did. You know, said Naruto as he put his hand under his chin in thought, I always suspected there was more to that sudden attack during the second Shinobi War that killed my clan off than what was let on. Plus the Uzumaki were suspicious as well and wrote about it in their final days if the few scrolls one was able to salvage from the ruins was proof enough. But now that you have admitted to it so proudly I don't really have to wonder any more about it and can dispense proper justice upon you. Why are you even aiding him? Asked Homura to Onoki, he is the son of Minato Namikaze. Your sworn enemy. The son of Minato you say, said Onoki as he glared at Naruto for a second. Then he growled and pulled out a small pouch of money and tossed it to Naruto, who was smirking the entire time this happened. Damn it. What? Was all Homura was able to say as he saw this since he thought that Onoki would attack Naruto, not give him money. I made a bet with Onoki here the day we discussed our plan to attack this village as he have done. I bet him a pouch of money that when you, Danzo, or Koharu were beaten like this that you would throw out my true heritage to the enemy in hopes that they would kill me just like you did. Onoki didn't think you would, but I knew better since you three were so predictable in your actions when someone was to take a step back and think about it clearly. Naruto then charged forward and struck the three of them in various pressure points of their bodies. They cried out in pain as they felt pain unlike anything that they have ever felt in their lives seared through their bodies, but they did not explode like the others had done. The technique was similar to one that Ro had used to make that one Nanto user suffer for 3 agonizing long days before they died. The last blow though silenced their screams so the people didn't have to listen to them anymore, and Naruto smirked as they were dragged away to the prison cells of this once great village to wither away in seclusion since, in the manner of a few hours, the village had been ransacked completely and the village itself was on fire. The village of Konoha was cleansed in the wall of fire that they preached about so much, and as Naruto walked away from all the flames that engulfed it along with the other victorious shinobi, he couldn't help but laugh as he set out to go home. Epilogue. The elemental countries were finally in a state of peace that had not been known for quite some time. Naruto had gone and rounded up all the leaders within it such as the Kages, Daimyos, and Mayors to a massive meeting to explain how the world was past the wall in the west. He explained that there were those who would try and take over this side of the world at some point, and while the wall may protect them now, it would not last forever. When he was asked what he suggested they do to prepare for this eventuality, his simple solution was to unify the land once and for all so that when the inevitable in fact happened and the bandits of the West made their way towards this part of the world, they would be ready as a unified front to protect their home instead of being massacred while divided and bickering like children amongst themselves. In the end, they agreed to his idea since it was a solid one and so the elemental countries unified under the banner of one single leader. Now while many thought that Kyuki herself would become the empress of the newly formed elemental empire since she was the least corrupt of all the daimyos, Naruto had convinced them that they needed a leader like the cages of the various villages in the past since the bandits killed all and so-called royal blood would not save them since it would flow from their corpse just like everyone else. So when all was said and done, it was none other than Nagato Uzumaki himself who took the spot once he was healed properly to his pristine condition, since Naruto didn't want the position and he was the second strongest person around. Naruto had taken the time after Konoha was destroyed to deal with the Akatsuki members that had been hunting not only him but the other Jinchuriki as well over the years. And while Naruto killed the most of them, he spared 3 members with one of them being Nagato's future wife Konan. He wanted to redeem himself for all the pain he caused and this was the way to do so since he was a fairly strong individual. Naruto also gathered the other Jinchuriki as well to help them train to use their Biju better so that they would be better prepared for any sort of future attack. They would become a powerful force to defend their home when the time came, and he also trained hundreds more in his lifetime, each who wanted to become the successor to the Hikato style. Naruto knew that there could only be one true successor to it, and he found it in the person he least expected. But while all this was happening, Naruto and several others made it their priority to hunt down Orochimaru, who was still at large since he was well hidden. And yet unlike Jiraiya they were able to find him easily since they were not distracted with peeping on women like a pervert all the damn time. So once found they began their assault on his base and followed him from base to base as he fled one after the other, but were unable to kill him. He eventually made his way to the wall separating the west from the east and escaped past it with a vow to bring back an army to destroy them all. Now while Naruto doubted he would accomplish that, he worried since Orochimaru would most likely speak of their side of the world to the wrong people and said people would try to attack them at some point in the future so they would have to prepare for it. Naruto had married all 3 of his girlfriends in due time, and each bore him children with Kyuki having his only son while the other 2 had daughters. His children trained with him in hopes that they could become the successor, but Naruto knew this was unlikely since there was never a successor who was the child of the previous one. He wasn't the only one who had a child, since Itachi married as well and had a son that became a prodigy like his father had been in his youth. His son was named Shisui after his friend who died years ago. This was the one who became his successor in time. But for the years leading up to the time of Shisui's succession as the master of the Hikato style, Naruto knew he needed to make money to support his family. So he came up with an idea that worked perfectly. He along with his father-in-law Tazuna built a massive establishment that he called Eden's Gate. This place was both a bar, cabaret club, and strip club each on a different floor. The bar was known as Limbo since all it did was pass the time like one would in the actual plane of existence. The cabaret was known as heaven since the women were beautiful and were there to make men happy like the angels they portrayed to be. Then of course the strip club was hell since it was the place to sin since while there were strippers yes there were also prostitutes as well since Naruto was not one to judge. Hell his wives were hostesses in heaven as well, since they enjoyed teasing people knowing full well that it made Naruto's lust rise in slight jealousy and he would act on it later when they got home. Naruto was able to train people while a shadow clone of himself worked as a bartender and a bouncer for the club since no man was crazy enough to screw with him because that was just suicide to even attempt it. When Naruto had found out that Shisui was the destined successor to the Hikato style, he devoted his time to train him in everything that he could teach him, and he finished the training at the perfect time. Within a year of the end to his training, which took 20 since he was trained when he was the age of 5. The wall to the west was finally breached. A bandit who called himself Mithama had unified multiple groups of bandits into a massive army under his command to lay waste to anything in his way. He went from town to town killing all who dared to oppose him, but those he found attractive enough, both men and women, he raped with his dick, which was huge, until their organs ruptured from the inside. And in a twist of cruel fate, Orochimaru became one of said victims when he had tried to steal the man's body. This man was a master of 17 different styles of Nanto Shinken, and he did plenty of damage to the unified front of the elemental countries before Naruto arrived. He had broken through the wall by loading a truck with large amounts of explosives to crash into it and broke through. Naruto knew that he would need to be the one to fight Mithama since the others were not trained in how to counter Nanto Shinken. So he set out alone to try and minimize the casualties, but not before he bid his family goodbye. He would never return from this trip. Their fight was long and gruesome, and in the end Naruto fell since during the fight Mithama's lackeys threw smoke bombs that were laced with poisons that messed with his senses as well as his body. In his youth he would have easily shrugged such a thing off quite easily, but as he got older his immunity to poisons waned as the years passed and his body got older. Naruto was killed via a strike through the heart, but Mithama suffered a massive blow to his person when Naruto used the last of his strength to deliver a blow to his genitals to cause it to explode painfully. The Kyuubi was slowly dying since Naruto himself was killed because of the manner that he was sealed made it so, but he had enough strength to make it back and warn the others before he died himself. Mithama had been pissed about what Naruto had done and ripped his body into pieces and placed them on separate pikes to send a message to the others. Shisui had grieved with Naruto's widows and children, and he set out with the main force to defend against Mithama's. The two sides clashed, with heavy casualties on both sides since those from the wasteland had guns which those from the east were not ready for. Shisui had challenged the murderer of his master and personally killed him. Mithama had tried using the same underhanded tactics that had killed Naruto, but Shisui had the Sharingan to see it coming and avoided it before he went around and went for the kill. He hit him in chest, causing Mithama to die as the front of his chest exploded outwards in a violently gory fashion. Shisui then took Naruto's body and stitched it back together before burying it in his clan's ancestral home of Whirlpool, where there was a massive memorial for him since the man was the one responsible for bringing peace to their lands as well as warning them of what was to come. From there they built a massive city surrounding the hole in the wall. They knew that people in the wasteland would come in droves as they heard that they had resources like they did and prepared for it better than they had before. They made a massive gate erected and trained numerous security to guard it at all times, and like they thought many people showed up. For years this went on with many others trying to break through and control them all, but they all failed. Years passed, and Naruto's widows died from old age and were buried next to their husband as they asked to be. And as Shisui trained the next successor he couldn't help but smirk, since he knew that if Naruto was alive he would be happy about how their world had become, and that the Hakato style lived on to this day. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.